Hey, friends, it's Mark from the Where to Gaze Retire podcast. I want to tell you that I built something close to my heart, LGBTQseniors.com. It's a free, welcoming online community for LGBTQ seniors. We've got forums, private messaging, real conversations, and monthly Zoom meetups where members from around the world connect, laugh, and feel a little less alone. No algorithms, no noise, just real people, real talk, and real community, all completely free. If you've ever thought, I wish there were a space like this, well, now there is. And if you enjoy what I bring to the table, I hope you'll find it in your heart to buy me a coffee or even a few to help keep this community going strong. So please visit lgbtqseniors.com today because connection matters and pride doesn't retire. Thank you.
Welcome to the Where Do Gays Retire podcast, where we help you in the LGBTQ plus community find a safe and affordable retirement place. Join Mark Goldstein as he interviews others who live in gay-friendly places around the globe. Learn about the climate, cost of living, healthcare, crime and safety, and more. Now, here's your host, Mark Goldstein.
Have you ever wondered what it's like living in Nerja, Spain? Today, stay tuned and find out. We have our special guest, Richard Carnaby, here. And Richard is an actor based in Norfolk, UK, where he lives with his husband, Steve, and his two beagles. He's appeared in several films, one of which is due for release next month in the UK, alongside Kevin McNally of Pirates of the Caribbean and Downton Abbey. He's currently performing Oscar Wilde's An Ideal Husband in the Duchess Theatre in Leicester, UK. I got that right.
You did get that
Richard
right.
and Steve have been married for almost 14 years and have decided in advance of Stephen's retirement to buy and build a home on the eastern Costa del Sol in Spain. Their search began in the popular town of Nerja, but as time went on, they realized the lesser-known town of Salobreña was the perfect fit on the nearby Costa Tropical. I hope I pronounced all of that correct.
Oh, well, 10 out of 10.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So, Richard, tell us about yourself. What led you and your husband to choose Nerja or nearby Salobreña as your future retirement?
It was all a bit of an accident, actually, and the story sort of unfolds. I was introduced to Nerja, about 25 years ago when I was with a previous partner. We owned a house there, just outside in a small village called Frigliana. And we then parted. We then parted ways. And weirdly, I never thought it was likely that I'd go back. But then I met Stephen, time went on and what have you. And we were looking for a place to go and visit just for a long weekend. And the flights from here, our nearest city is Norwich in Norfolk in the UK. And it's on the East Coast. And the flights were fairly commonplace to Malaga at the time. And we just decided to fly on a Thursday to Malaga and come home the following Monday just for a long weekend break. It's only a 2-hour flight, a little over 2 hours. It was really, really simple. Whilst there, we actually stayed in Marbella, which is on the western Costa del Sol, much more touristy, urbanized, very developed and very popular. And whilst there, I thought, well, actually, let me just go back let's take a drive across along the coast to Nerja and see how it is. And what's changed, if anything, because don't forget, this was about, I'd say 5, maybe 10 years after I'd previously been. And we went up into the mountains to a little town called Compota. We went to Nerja. And I said to Stephen, what do you think? And he said, why wouldn't I love it? It's beautiful. And I suppose since then, it's become our go-to emergency break kind of place because of the ease of access. And then over time, again, sort of whilst we've been married, we started to think, well, we don't do well in the winter here in the UK, let's be honest. I suffer from a degree of depression, which is exacerbated by the dark nights and the gloom of winter here in the UK. Steve is very hardworking and is slightly older than me, about 5 years older than me. So he's closer to retirement than I am. And we thought, well, we'd like to find a place that allows us to live well in our retirement. And that is, I went sort of house hunting very frequently over to the area on the Costa del Sol there. And we kind of decided that, yeah, actually we could make this work. And the intention is to spend several months in the winter months in Spain, in the Costa del Sol. And obviously the summers here in the UK. That's the plan. And that's what we're kind of, the kit of parts is there and forming and coming together.
So when you mentioned you were in Marbella, which is west of the Costa del Sol, west of Malaga, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you traveled east to Nerja. What caught your eye? Like, what made the difference between those two locations? Was it the mountains or?
Oh, you can't. The two are completely different. Stephen and I aren't what I would call city dwellers. Yes, we've had careers and we work in the capital of the UK, London, and I've worked in Nottingham and Leicester, and Steve's worked all around the world as well. But we're not city dwellers. We prefer the countryside. And also, whilst Marbella and Puerto Banús and all of the west coast there has elements of it that are beautiful, it's all quite purpose-built. Whereas on the eastern side of Malaga, things are a little bit more rural and a little bit more traditional. It's still accessible by a fantastic road, the Autovia del Mediterráneo, which goes all the way up to Barcelona, but it's not so urbanised, I would say. And we just felt that because we live in the countryside in the UK, and again, we've got access to good roads and an airport and train stations and things like that here, we didn't want an environment that means we're confronted with people on all sides, whether you go out or whether you're out for a Sunday drive or a dog walk even. We crave tranquility and a degree of isolation. And that was why we favoured the eastern side, because it's not as heavily developed, even though it's accessible to Granada, the city of Granada, and Malaga. It's still relatively unfound, I think, and untrodden, I think is the phrase. It's a little bit of a secret.
It sounds like the best of both worlds.
That's
so
exactly.
You have access, really good access to urban lifestyle if you need it. So in other words, you can go to Malaga on the same day and see a show or go to some restaurants that you want to, and yet get away to the peacefulness of Nerja.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about climate and geography. Can you describe the climate and natural setting of Nerja and the surrounding Costa del Sol?
Yeah, it's protected from the north. It's clearly south-facing. It's on the southern coast of Spain. It's protected from its north side by a mountain range called the Sierras de Tejeda, and the highest point of which is a ski resort, believe it or not. Even though you are in at ground level or sea level, you're probably in 25 degrees. There is a ski resort up in the mountains, and it's very popular. So you're protected from that north blast that we get here in the northern hemisphere, I'm afraid. And so within that, it faces south, so the climate is always very accommodating. Certainly in the winter months, it rarely drops below 20 degrees Celsius, which is around about 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Beautiful.
So, but in the winter months, it's not fiercely hot, so it's comfortable. And then, of course, as you evolve into the summer in the Northern Hemisphere, of course it gets hotter, which again gives you license to relax. There's nothing, nothing wrong. There's nothing to feel guilty about by wanting to spend a day by a swimming pool in a 25, 30 degree heat. And that is what they're familiar with in Spain, on the south coast there. So that's the sort of heat factor. And I've seen days where it has gone over 40 degrees Celsius, which is significant. It's a rarity, but it happens, and it's happened more frequently, more recently. There are strong winds at times, and when it rains, it seems to really rain. They call them the inundations. And I've been there where 1 or 2 days, say in October, it's usually October, and it does make the international news where just for some reason a weather system gets caught by, I don't know whether by the mountains, between the mountains and the sea. I don't know I'm not a weather forecaster, but and whoa, does it rain? And people's cars get washed down the road and things like that. So, wow. But that's the worst case scenario, and it only happens infrequently. So, other than that, you get the odd shower in spring and autumn, but from about June, the 1st of June onwards, it rarely rains all the way through to October. So, what that does is allows you a lifestyle that you can plan, and you can. That it's not going to be rained off or snowed off,
right.
or
unlike the UK, where
and you can eat outside. That simple, relaxing pastime of having a beach. Absolutely, you can sit there and have your coffee in the morning without being rained on, or you can have a beach picnic, or you can sit by your swimming pool and have your evening meal. And
sounds so delightful, doesn't it?
I know, I'm selling it well, aren't I, Mark?
You are.
I'm kind of doing quite well. Even though I've told everybody I think it's the best kept secret, I'm now telling everybody how great it is. But never mind, carry on.
So, explain to our audience, Nerja is it on the Mediterranean?
It is. All of that coastline is Mediterranean.
Okay. So it's just east of Malaga.
Yeah, anything east of Gibraltar is on the Mediterranean. Gibraltar is British, of course. It's a United Kingdom territory. Anything west of Gibraltar is, I think, over towards Portugal is classed as the Atlantic. So yes, we're on the Mediterranean coast. The localised sea is called the Alboran Sea. And it's, again, not too heavily, not a lot of shipping traffic. It's a marine nature reserve, which, again, is really lovely because it's protected. So there aren't kind of masses of speedboats and jet skiers and water skiers. Yes, there is some localised stuff going on off the beach, but it isn't a kind of heavily trafficked area because they have dolphins and other really heavily protected sea creatures of all kinds. And you can do scuba diving, you can take a boat out and go scuba diving and all of that stuff. And of course, because of the heat, the sea warms up through August, and it's best in sort of September, October. It's not a particularly freezing cold kind of sea. You can spend time in it, and actually it's quite a relief too.
So from Centro Nerja, the beach is how far away?
Oh, there are about 4 or 5 beaches. Nerja itself is on the coast. It's literally on the shoreline, and it's known as the Balcony of Europe. And there is I've
seen that balcony.
Yes, there's a main promontory from the town square that juts out over the sea, and it's called the Balcón de Europa, which is Balcony of Europe. And on a very clear day, and you would have to require a very clear day, you can see the northern coast of Africa from it. Okay. That's how geographically, I suppose, close you are to the northern coast of Africa. But across beaches across the town, there's a couple of town beaches. One's called Calahonda. Torricella is another one, and they're quite sweet, twee little beaches. There's little beach huts, and it's all quite traditional. It's not rammed full of sunbeds, and
it's not commercial.
you're not laying there next to somebody that you've never met kind of beach. It's not like that. It's unless you choose to, of course. But and the main big, I suppose, family orientated beach is called Buriana, Playa Buriana, which is just east of the town. It's a little bit of a walk from the town centre, although they are trying to form a walkway between the town centre and the balcony through to Buriana. But that's where kind of most of the family activities are based, like I say, the bouncy castles and the water sports and that kind of thing. That's more driven to a family environment. There's restaurants and bars and beach bars and they call them chiringuitos, which is little restaurants that are on the sand where they cook your
sardines
on the barbecue. Absolutely.
Right.
So there's a multitude of choices, which is again great. Further afield, there's the more rural ones as well. There's a couple of naturist beaches.
How about towards Salobreña?
Well, that's where the more rural ones I find tend to be.
So you still have beaches there?
Oh, absolutely. Again, that's directly on the coast. Salobreña, which is, as we're about to talk about, is further east, only about 10 minutes drive, nothing dramatic. Salobreña is an old medieval town. It's formed around a giant castle that's in the middle. It was clearly a fortress back in the day of the numerous invasions that Spain underwent hundreds of years ago. It's less touristy, and this is where we eventually settled on a property. It's got everything that you want, your supermarkets, your bars, your huge beach, but it's not so well trodden and not so well known. And I think that's born out of the fact that it's just, first of all, it's in a different province. It's in Granada province rather than Malaga province. So our technically our go-to city at Salobreña, where we live in Salobreña, is Granada, which is inland.
And Nerja is Malaga?
Yes, yeah. But they're only 10 minutes, Nerja and Salobreña are only 10 minutes apart. So really Malaga and Granada are equidistant from both. It's just Malaga is the bigger airport city, whereas Granada, because it's inland, it hasn't got the port. It has an airport, but it's more traditional. It's known by its Alhambra Palace, which is a great big, one of the sort of wonders of the world style palace. It's huge. Salobreña, as I say, is a little less developed, has got the elements of an old Spanish town like Nerja. It's just not as well groomed and put up for tourism as Nerja is, which has its benefits and burdens, I suppose. It's not so crowded, certainly in the summer. It's more tranquil. But of course, you haven't got the variety of restaurants and other things going on because it's not so touristy centred. It's much more of a local Spanish town.
Do you find yourself going into Nerja?
Absolutely. Nerja is a great go-to. Yeah, Nerja is a great go-to town. It really, really is. It's got every single facility you would really want. Access to healthcare. There's private doctors of all languages. There's clinics, that kind of thing, dentistry. There's, of course, supermarkets. There's more. What I have noticed about Nerja, and I have noticed it about many of the towns on the Costa, these more small market towns on the Costa del Sol, is they don't have these overwhelming shopping complexes. It's not like they're going to find the Beverly Centre just outside on the motorway. It doesn't work like that in Spain. They're quite, from what I can see, they quite like to keep things within the towns and keep it centralised rather than these big out-of-town shopping complexes. There are the odd one or two, but everything is centred in the town. So you've always got your pharmacies, your hairdressers, your restaurants, cafes, bars, shoe shops.
Because it's walkable too.
Absolutely. Everything is in walking distance, as it is in Salobreña. And
is there a town called Torox?
Torox isn't a town. It's
City.
Torox is known as the best climate in Europe.
Where is that?
That is just about 2 miles to the west of Nerja. So you have to
Oh,
drive
wow.
past it from, it's very close. Torrox is lovely. It's a sweet little Andalusian village, slightly inland. And again, like I say, it's because of its geographical location, it's kind of in a valley, which is sheltered on all sides by mountains, apart from the south, which is, of course, facing the sea. So it's known as having the best climate in Europe. And the countryside around Torrox is beautiful. It's very dramatic, very green and verdant, very hilly. And lots of people have found beautiful villas in that area and going up towards Compita, which is nearby the town I mentioned earlier, but up in the mountains. And but Torrox also has a Costa, Torrox Costa, which is a purpose-built kind of beach location for the village. And I've noticed that they've done that a lot in Spain, where you have a city or town in inland, it will have its purpose-built beach kind of vibey area also,
Right.
so you can dip between the two. I mean, the classic case is Torremolinos at Malaga was purpose-built as the beach resort for Malaga.
Yeah.
So again, it gives you all the options. You can hit the beach, you can stay in town, you can, it's great.
Have you noticed any climate change in the region?
Like I mentioned earlier, the odd day there's a fierce moment in August, and August has always been blisteringly hot in Spain, full stop. And what tends to happen is you'll find people from Madrid, Spaniards who work and live in Madrid and other big cities, will have a home on the coast that they kind of migrate to for August, because it's slightly cooler, even though it's 35 or 40 degrees Celsius. But obviously they can jump in the pool or jump in the sea. And I've noticed certainly there's a moment in August, usually about a week long, that it is extraordinarily hot. The wind stops. It's peaceful because nobody's moving. Nobody dare go anywhere because it's just so hot. You can't get tradesmen to do anything in August and also the rainfall in winter hasn't been as consistent as I used to know it was. And there was a concern, certainly about 6 months ago, that the reservoirs, I know there's a big reservoir near Nerja called Lake Vinuela, which is a giant reservoir. Its resources were dwindling. Then they had the inundation in October, and it literally filled up within the space of about a fortnight. So but there is an issue with water supply in the area, quite a big issue, and that's not born out of development. That's actually born out of avocado farming, believe it or not. A lot of the farmers have moved over to the global demand for avocados, which require a huge amount of water to irrigate them, and they're calling on the resource to make a living, which of course is having an impact on water supplies to urbanized areas, towns. And I know certainly in the rural areas, like I mentioned earlier, outside Torrox and Compita, they do switch the water off from time to time to residential areas to feed other residential areas. It is a little bit push me, pull you, and give and take. How that's being addressed, I don't know. Spain has faced this problem for several years. I don't know what to say.
Yep,
it is an issue for to consider. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the cost of living. So, how would you describe the cost of living in Nerja and the Costa Tropical as opposed to the UK or the US?
In the UK, I don't live in the US, so it's difficult for me to convey it. But I would imagine in the US, life is expensive.
Mm-hmm. It is.
I've worked and lived in LA. I've visited New York. I know those places are expensive to live in all kind of directions. In the UK, life is expensive. Our food has gone up significantly. Our resources like power, energy, petrol, diesel, gasoline, you call it, are all expensive. Spain is much cheaper. There are elements that are slightly more expensive, but nothing of note. And I think that's because they're connected to other countries in the EU, so of course supply chains are there. Food, it has to be mentioned, is cheaper. Is cheaper, absolutely. And I think again that comes from the fact that it's easier to go out to eat in Spain. People do, because the last thing you want to do is stand over a hot stove in a 30-degree heat at home. So just go outside, go out and get someone else to do it. And of course
it's probably cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course also it's easier to grow. Vegetables and that kind of thing is much easier to come by out there, and their food standards, I personally feel, are higher. I love going food shopping in Spain, because simply the colours and the life in the food on the shelves, on the grocery areas, it's really flamboyant. I can't describe it, and it's much more of what I would call a higher standard compared to that in the supermarkets and grocery stores I see in England. I don't know where that comes from. It just feels like it is. Alcohol is cheaper there. However, their drink driving laws are much more tough, so be careful. Their threshold for being under the influence of alcohol whilst driving is really, really low. So don't think you're going to get away with having 3 cans of beer or whatever and getting in your car and driving home, because if you get caught, they will. And I don't want to get on the wrong side of the Guardia Civil. They look a bit scary.
What I've heard in Spain is, though, like wine is so much cheaper.
Because grapes are easier to come by.
Right. And, you'll have wine with lunch, you'll have wine with dinner, you might even have wine with breakfast. But the way they drink their wine is not like, they go crazy. They take like a half a glass or a small portion of the wine, and it's just like a social thing.
Absolutely. We're British people are renowned across the world for our poor management of alcohol. I make no secret of that, and I'm going to hold my hands up to that. We're terrible at it. But yes, absolutely. Out there in Spain, it is certainly more of a social thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is very uncommon to see a Spanish person who is drunk. In fact, I don't think in all the time I've been going there nearly 30 years, and I can't recall a time where I've seen a Spanish person drunk. They're much more considered with it, and much more measured. And you're right, it is a very much an addition to a meal, not a prerequisite.
Right.
And I think, again, that comes from the heat. I mean, the worst feeling in the world is a thumping hangover when it's 35 degrees. It's just really? Why do we do that to ourselves? I've never done it out there. I have to say, I've never done it. And I wouldn't. I avoid it because I don't want to feel like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Who does? Let's talk about, how about cost of living as far as the housing market is concerned? So you're building a house.
Yeah.
So do you know what the average maybe the median home price is?
In a word, no, because it's so variable. Because there are rural spots, unpopulated spots. You could quite easily pick yourself up a tiny little village house with maybe 2 bedrooms, a little roof terrace, a little white sugar cube house with a living room, kitchen, for the equivalent of £30,000, which is, I think, around about $45,000-ish, I think. Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. That's in the more rural areas, absolutely. It would need some work, but it's yours, and it's legal because it's in the town, so to speak, so it's urbanised. All the way across to, if you want your beachfront villa with sea view from dawn till dusk, uninterrupted, of course they go up into the millions. So there is a fantastic cross-section of property prices, and it is all based on postcode. It is literally, those houses outside of, on the edge of Marbella on the Golden Mile there, where the Sultan of Brunei and the King of Saudi Arabia all have houses. Well, you're talking literally
Millions.
Bel Air prices. Yeah. Whereas, of course, I could find a similar sized villa in the countryside just outside Torrox for €300,000, which is a lot of money, but again, you aren't cheek by jowl to your neighbour. You've got towns and villages that you want to visit close by. Mm-hmm. It all depends what you want, but I assure you, I would argue it's certainly cheaper than the UK. I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm pretty sure the cost of housing across the US will vary where you want to be. It's that supply and demand stuff. But it's funny, we found ourselves not wanting to be in the sought-after areas, which might be a fantastic lesson to sort of watch.
That's understandable. How about groceries, dining out, prices, transportation? How do they compare to the UK?
Transportation is brilliant. The road network. I mean, the first thing I always notice when I get home to the UK is how terrible our roads are. And even though we have motorways and 6-lane highways, the Spanish road network, the motorway network, is brilliant. And it's almost undersubscribed. You could drive on a motorway and not see another car and think, where is everybody? And I know certainly on the western Costa del Sol, they have toll roads as well, which are completely empty, and you pay your €5 toll and you can race down to Marbella. So, and also the public transport system is very effective, actually. Nerja and Salobreña aren't on a railway network, which I think is, dare I say it, a good thing.
Keeps the people out.
I'm glad you said it. They are on a very good bus network, very efficient bus network. And I've never used the bus, but I see them and they are very frequent. They're very clean and tidy looking. The locals use them. The Spaniards use them all the time. You see them. And I don't believe, from what I hear in Facebook forums for the town and things like that, it's only a couple of euros, which is not a dramatic to go anywhere. These are fairly frequent. They go up into the countryside, into the villages, serve the villages. Also off to Malaga.
Into Malaga.
Malaga, where you can get the very efficient train
Anything
service. Yeah, you can. You've got the train service out of Malaga, which goes along the west coast to Torremolinos and other locations.
For Fuengirola.
Yeah, but it also goes direct to Madrid, other big cities, all the way through.
They have the bullet trains.
They do. And I've been on a train. I haven't been on a bullet train. And again, it's clean, tidy, efficient, and it's very user friendly. Yeah, absolutely.
What's the transportation time by bus or by car from Nerja to Malaga?
Hour and a half.
Oh, it's that far from Malaga?
Yeah.
On the road?
I think a bus would take a little bit longer. I've done Nerja to Malaga in an hour on the road, in a car, but I guess by bus you're talking an hour and a half to get into the centre of the city. Yeah.
So it is far away. I mean, far enough that you have peace and quiet and seclusion.
I think that distance is meaningful. Yeah, absolutely. And it brings a lot of benefits. And it depends what you want. If you want people, if you don't want isolation, there are areas in the Costa del Sol of all kinds that you can find a home in. But for us personally, the eastern side was the winner at all times, because it allows you, if you want to go in and dip your toe into the busy stuff, of course you can, but you always go home and have a quiet night's sleep.
Do you know what the cost of internet and those kind of utilities like gas and electric?
No, there's no mains gas. There's no such thing as mains gas. They have bottled gas delivered in the countryside. They have bottled gas delivered in the countryside. A little man with a little truck comes round and drops you off your bottles and takes your empties away. I don't believe it's particularly expensive, but I don't also believe it's particularly efficient. I know our house build, we concentrate on electric, and because it's south-facing, and we're going to get away with solar panels on the roof, and that's going to prop up the hot water and the central heating. What heating you actually need, don't forget, you don't actually need a lot of heating.
Right.
A lot
But
of
how
the
about air
house...
conditioning?
You do, and of course that provides a reverse function of heating as well if you needed warm air on a particularly rare occasion where it is cool enough to need it. I don't get a sense it's particularly expensive though, Mark. Neither is water, strangely, given its the degree of scarceness.
Scarce.
I don't believe it's particularly expensive to fill up a swimming pool or even just, fill up a kettle to boil yourself a cup of coffee. It's all fairly accessible, and I think it would be wrong to think that this is a primitive place where resources are scarce and difficult to come by and expensive as a result. It's not like that at all. It's a very well accomplished, organised area of the country with great facilities and utilities. Internet and broadband and that kind of thing, do you know what? I don't know. Forgive me. I genuinely don't know what the comparison would be. I know in the countryside, people have kind of satellite broadband. And I think there's one big company called Axar Fusion who provide it. I don't get it. Again, I think it's because it's so domestically available, I don't get a sense that it's expensive. And I think it's fairly reliable as well. So
Yeah, I've heard others in different parts of Spain say that it was pretty inexpensive. So
it's not a drama, seriously.
okay, let's move on to the LGBTQ community, or lack of. Now, so we know Spain is very LGBTQ plus, oriented or minded. What's the community like in Nerja or Rena as far as comparing it to Malaga? Is there any type of community? Is there an LGBTQ community at all?
Malaga and its kind of neighbour Torremolinos is where the major gay LGBTQ plus communities congregate to socialise.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Torremolinos has a purpose-built zone, I would call it, a kind of neighbourhood, which is alive with bars, clubs, venues, restaurants, and it's lovely. It's really sweet. And what's lovely about I was there in March, actually. It was a friend of mine's 30th birthday, and we went out on a Saturday night, and we were there till 5 a.m. and I'm nearly 50 years old, and I thought, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. This is crazy. And it was great. But what I loved about it wasn't just little kids, or I say little kids, your late teens, 20-somethings. There's also a cross-section of ages, and there's drag, and there's leather. There's so the night scene is concentrated in Torremolinos and Malaga. Nerja and Salobreña, yes, it's much more restrained. And I think that is by choice. I think, like you said in the introduction to that question, Spain is incredibly tolerant. They're a fantastically welcoming and tolerant nation. And it's fine to be gay. I've been there with my husband and my previous partner.
Nobody cares.
No one gives a stuff. I admit we don't hold hands. We don't do public displays of affection. I don't believe for a second, if I did, I would get a scowl of any kind. It would not be received unpleasantly at all.
Like in the UK, is it like the US? Like, is there
There's a degree of, the UK is I don't want to go into politics, but we have some influences in the UK at the moment that to the LGBTQ, even though we've got an arguably a socialist government, the Labour Party at the moment, which is more left leaning, there are some influences in the UK off to the right that aren't helping. And whilst it is perfectly legal and lawful and okay to be gay and show that on the street in the UK, holding hands, I personally am always reluctant, because we hear the stories, I'm afraid, and I don't want to be dragged into some sort of show where just because I don't know, patted my husband on the back and, put my arm around his shoulders, all of a sudden I'm dragged into, that's all wrong, those kind of comments. But it is lawful. It's just, it's more restrained here.
It's like the US,
yeah,
what you're describing.
But Nerja, you're right, there are pockets. There's the odd venue that is, I wouldn't say exclusively gay, it's leaning towards gay. There's no particular zone or street or shop that I can think of that is of relevance to the gay community. There's a beach actually fairly in between Salobreña and Nerja. There's a beach, actually it's on the edge of the national park, so it's not developed at all. There's just a couple of little beach bars and that is it, and the car park, and it's beautiful. And there is a gay zone of that particular beach, which
sure,
I think,
because it's secluded.
Absolutely, yeah. But and again, it's beautiful. I've been there. I mean, make no secret, and it's fine. And there's a naturist area, and I don't think that's anything negative, though. Why it's done like that, I just think it's formed out. It's been formed organically. I always describe Nerja and Salobreña, and certainly the countryside where I've rented villas so often over the last 25 years while we're house hunting and holidaying, as somewhere where if I don't want to be found as an actor, let's just say I became the next Tom Cruise, let's just imagine. If I don't want to be found, that's where I'll go. Because it's accessible to me and I know where to get to and I know how to get to where I need to be. But it's also difficult for other people to find you. It's secluded, it's discreet, it's select. And that is why we chose it. It's not in your face. It's not brash. It's not, drag and,
It sounds refreshing.
It doesn't need it. And I think if that's your choice of a location for a home or a holiday destination, don't expect fireworks and, feather boas.
All right. Gotcha. No, I totally get it. But everyone seems to be very welcoming. And
absolutely.
They won't bat an eyelash.
Mm-hmm. And also because it's a hotbed of other nationalities, British people and Americans and Canadians aren't the only people buying holiday homes and retirement homes there. Yeah. Don't forget, it's accessible hugely to the North European market. So
Germany and
Dutch,
Netherlands.
Sweden, Switzerland, all of those traditionally, I would argue, cold locations where again, gay couples, I know, I can think of a handful of gay couples that I've met whilst holidaying in Nerja that they come from Holland and Sweden and Denmark.
They're totally open.
And those locations are always totally, fabulously accepting and to the gay culture. And
Iceland.
Absolutely. So, you will always find this fantastically accepting culture in Nerja and Salobreña.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Let's talk about walkability again, transportation. So we talked about how accessible towards the west is with rail. Nerja has buses. How about walkability? So can you walk to everything in Nerja? If you lived in Nerja or in Salobreña, could you walk to the pharmacy, the grocery store?
Yeah, the short answer to that question is yes. You will always find something. Of course, there, like I said earlier, there are bigger supermarkets accessible by the motorway and things like that. But you will always find little grocery stores, little shoe shops, little designer boutiques, the shop where you need to buy some sun lotion, the pharmacy. Nerja is a very accomplished market town, and there is a regular market as well on the outskirts of the town. Again, I know my way around it, and it's all walkable.
Bigger is not always better.
No. Now, says who? But and Salobreña is the same, but it's a smaller town generally. It's got a smaller population, and
But everything is walkable or
absolutely,
bikeable.
And there's ample car parking as well. So if you do live outside and you need to go into town, there's ample car parking either on street or in purpose-built car parks around the town.
Do you need a car?
If you lived in Nerja, no. If you lived in the countryside or one of the villages outside, I would argue yes. My home is in an area, it's a gated development called Monte de los Almondres. I've got the card in front of me for the administration office. And that translates to Almond Mountain. And it's an estate that is outside of the town of Salobreña. And actually, whilst it's a beautiful location and every home is like you would see in sort of those Bel Air estates where every home is beautiful and they have the green hedges and the big gates and things like that, there isn't a shop on that particular area of the town, so you would need a car. You've got neighbours, you've got a communal pool which is rarely used because and a tennis court and a paddle court and things like that, which is rarely used because everybody's got their own blooming pool anyway. But there isn't any retail there, so you would need a car. And
is there car riding services like Uber?
No. There's taxis. There's taxis, but there isn't an app based. Not that I'm aware of. It would creep in, I'm sure. And there probably is one in Malaga and Marbella because they're more businessy. They're more financially kind of driven cities with finance districts and things like that. But no, I can't recall seeing anything like the app-based service like those Uber and Bolt and things like that yet.
Okay.
But of course, you can just pick up the phone and ring a taxi. Lots of people actually fly in and get a taxi to their home where they've got a car waiting for them that they've purchased to sit with their home. It saves them parking at the airport. It saves them frantically driving to the airport late or whatever. It takes the stress out of all that bit. So that's quite commonplace. So yes, walkability is great and actually quite relaxing. Yeah.
Sounds like
lovely.
It. Let's talk about healthcare. I don't know if you've experienced the healthcare system, but you probably know about it in Spain in general. So is there a hospital in Nerja?
No. There's lots of small clinics, private ones.
What's the closest?
The closest hospital. Yeah, there's a large one at a town called Vélez Málaga, which is about halfway between Nerja and the city of Malaga. It's a big...
half hour, 30 minutes maybe?
Yeah, around that, yeah. And of course there are big hospitals in Malaga. There's a couple of that I can think of. I've seen signs for. I've had to use healthcare out there a couple of times, and it is better, although more costly, to take the private route. It's easier, and you know what? Forgive me for being blunt, but if you've got enough money to retire to Spain, you've got enough money to pay €50 for a GP appointment.
For a doctor.
So, and also, we're going through the visa process at the moment where we can apply. Since we've left the UK, left the EU,
Brexit.
Yeah, we have to now apply for visas to live and work in Spain for any reasonable amount of time. So I'm currently going through the visa application process.
What type of visa are you applying for?
We're having the domestic nomad visa, so we can still work from Spain without restriction, and it allows us to reside there and carry on our work in the UK and potentially in Spain as well. I'm an actor, so I might get an advert to advertise a car in Barcelona. I don't know, but and I know part of that visa application process is proving that we've got adequate private healthcare cover that you can purchase. You can purchase an insurance policy, or alternatively, you can pay for it ad hoc as and when you need it. Like I say, I can't remember what the healthcare issue was now, to be honest. It was a good few years ago, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to go and get this looked at. And what is great about it being a private system is that you pick up the phone, you book in, you go down and you have your appointment, and that's it. and you're seen at the time you booked it. You haven't got to wait in queues. You haven't got to, run around buildings looking for the relevant doctor or the relevant reception desk to get yourself to where you need to be. It's all just done and there and sorted. And so it is a private-based system. There is a cost to that. But from what I've seen, also the standards are high. And I know there are hospitals in Marbella, which of course is a good couple of hours away from where we're talking about, that are the best in the world or considered the best in the world for various treatments.
I understand. Is it true? You'll be applying for private health care, correct?
Yes,
So
yes.
do you have any idea what it costs? I think anywhere from $100 to $200 a person per month.
I think it would depend on your age, your any pre-existing conditions, whether you're a smoker, whether you're a drinker. All of those things fall into place, don't they, when considering this kind of policy? And actually, I haven't had my quote back yet from my visa consultant who's doing ours. So in answer to your question, I don't know, but it's again, we're in a situation where it's a commercial a country where provision is available. I would imagine, given how many people require it, who are retiring or visiting or residing, certainly from the UK, let alone Germany, France, Spain, Sweden, Holland, it's a fairly accessible. There are fairly accessible schemes available with the relevant cover that's necessary.
Now, once you get your visa, how long does it take to get on to the public system?
I can apply for residency at any time, actually. Whether I'll get it or not, I don't know. But you can become a citizen within 3 years.
So, but the public healthcare system, once you get a visa...
I actually don't know the answer to that question. But I think the very fact that we've got to have a private healthcare policy means we can't.
I think it's a year. I'm not quite sure if it's 3 months or a year.
Yeah.
But I think you need private health care.
Yeah.
For a year.
Yeah.
And then when you're eligible for the public, since you haven't been paid into the system, the Social Security system of Spain, all of those years, there is a charge. I think it's something like the equivalent of €70 per month if you're less than 65 years old. If you're younger than 65, and 65 it goes up double.
Yeah. We do have a benefit that has maintained and been retained since the UK left the EU of reciprocal healthcare. So I know British citizens, if you're you can apply for a card while you're in the UK, and it's a little blue one with the European and British flag on, and that allows UK citizens to have reciprocal free emergency healthcare, which is the same that we would get in the UK if we needed it. Whether that covers emergency provision.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know, say I slipped down the stairs and broke my leg on holiday or whatever. I don't think that would allow for a more residency-based issue, like, say, perish the thought, I was living in Salobreña and I contracted cancer. Right. I don't think that cover would allow for that, which is why the policy would kick in for us. Right. I don't know how that sits with American or Canadian.
Yeah, so I think after that period of time of your residency, I think it's a year, and then you can pay into the public system as well. Yeah. And there's no pre-existing conditions with the public system.
No, not at all. No.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about arts, culture, and dining, moving right along. What's the cultural scene in Nerja?
Beautiful. The first thing that springs to mind, and don't forget, Malaga is the home of Pablo Picasso, the artist. Granada is very artsy. So what I love about Nerja, as I've mentioned before, and Salobreña, is every shop, every little corner, there's something individual. It's very cultured. And that part of Spain has, over the years, been fought over from medieval times and beyond by different Romans, the Moors, the Jews. It's known. The area is known as the village of three cultures. So there is a lot of history. There's a huge amount of history, and the first thing that springs to mind is the caves in Nerja. They are, again, I would argue, a wonder of the world. There's a beautiful cave complex that's open to the public, very cheap and accessible, just outside the town, and it's amazing. And they hold music concerts in there, which, of course, the acoustics are extraordinary. You've got museums. Obviously, Salobreña, as I mentioned earlier, is based around a great big medieval castle fortress, which is great. It's kind of like this pinnacle on the top of the hill. You've got the influence of Pablo Picasso in Malaga. There's art galleries. There's museums. Malaga is a beautiful old colonial city, and some of the architecture is really quite beautiful, as is in Granada. So yes, it's there if you want to go and find it and look for it. Absolutely. And aside from that, there's walking trails into the mountains. There's quad bike rides. There's all that will take you into these untouched kind of corners of the mountainous area. There's a great deal of culture going on. And of course, it's Spain. They don't need asking twice to have a festival about something. I assure you, I don't think I've ever had a 2-week holiday in Spain where there hasn't been a holiday of some description, a public holiday where all the shops are shut and they're all partying or doing something in the town square. It's brilliant. I mean, good for them.
They know what it's like. They have the right idea.
Yes, their public holiday life balance is the one that I kind of really. I really aspire to.
Yes. How about if you wanted to go to theater? Where would you go? To Malaga?
Yes. Yeah, I can't think of a theatre in Nerja. There's a cinema in Vélez, Malaga, but your big cinema.
But like live theatre?
Live theatre, it would have to be Nerja. Sorry, Malaga. Or Granada. But also, I believe, what was I going to say? It's gone now. Oh, flamenco.
Oh, yeah, in Malaga.
So you would think. The last time we were there in March, stumbled on this. Don't forget, I've been going to Nerja for nearly 30 years. Stumbled on a bar that I have walked past dozens of times. A doorway. It was completely inconspicuous. And we went in and saw the complete works of a flamenco show that was totally raw, untouched, beautiful as it would be. I mean, I'm not an emotional person, but I sat there watching this flamenco dance with a tear in my eye, thinking this is absolutely beautiful. So there are these pockets of culture that, again, if you go digging, you'll find it. It's gorgeous.
Great. How about dining?
Oh, again, you've got the cross section from high end, haute cuisine, all the way through down to pizza.
Now, in Nerja, is it also a cafe culture where everybody eats outdoors?
Yeah, absolutely. The weather allows for it. Because most of the streets are cobbled and pedestrianised, there's always cafes and bars. The Balcon itself is alive with outdoor eateries, but of course there's others that are set back and hidden in the town. There's lots of beachfront dining, which is beautiful, sitting there eating your fish that was caught in the sea, literally there, while and hearing the waves crashing. There isn't a real demand of any kind that I've noticed for fast food.
Can't blame them.
There is no McDonald's, Burger King, Five Guys, nothing.
Keep them away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard it mentioned that one of the service stations on the motorway might be getting a McDonald's. And literally the outpouring of hatred on the Facebook forum was, no, keep it away, don't allow it, leave it alone, don't do it. But no, so again, if McDonald's or Burger King is your thing, you're choosing the wrong location. Not to say there aren't burger, American style burger places, but they're more bespoke.
Right, but
yeah, and they're great. And again, it's also individual. There's a Mexican I can think of. There's sushi, beautiful Japanese restaurant. Seriously,
I bet you don't have Chinese.
Not takeaway. I can't think of a takeaway, actually. No, that's a very English thing. Sorry.
US too.
Yeah.
Oop.
Oh, what's he done? Tipped his coffee over. So again, if you can't find something you like, I would argue there must be something wrong with you.
Something wrong with you. Right.
And again, it's all so fresh and bespoke, sort of cooked there and then. It's because the restaurants are all fighting for custom, the standards are high. The standards are very high, and the service is very, very good as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about crime and safety. In Nerja, is there any kind of crime?
There's certainly no serious crime that I can think of.
See, you don't even... So Spain doesn't allow guns. Well, does the
UK? Oh,
UK?
yeah, I think guns are lawful in Spain.
They're not lawful.
Are they not? Oh,
no.
Okay, pass. I thought they were. I've not come across a particularly serious crime in all the time I've gone there. And I know areas of the West Coast, again, I'm going to talk about Marbella, which are... Because Marbella developed from the sort of 60s onwards as a millionaire's playground, it's known as.
It's like Beverly Hills.
Absolutely. And it's beautiful. You're right. It's well groomed. There are beautiful cars, beautiful people, beautiful homes. There is also an element of underground crime in Marbella. In fact, one British journalist did a big article on Marbella and basically said Marbella is the place you either go to do shots or get shot. And it's known. Whereas on the east side, I've not seen anything even remotely near that. There is the odd pickpocket incident.
Petty theft.
And it's funnier. And again, there are what I would call, I don't know what you call them, guys that sell fake handbags and fake luggage. Mm-hmm. They're more prevalent on the west side because they're attracted to the tourism, who buy their fake Gucci bag and their fake Fondi purse or whatever, and they sell them on the streets. That element has only just crept into Nerja in about the last 5 years, and there's only, I can think of, 2 guys that walk about selling these faux bags. And again, when somebody on one of the Facebook forums for the town said, oh, look, I've just purchased 3 handbags and a clutch purse for €200, everybody attacked this woman and said, you do realise you're funding organised crime? Stop. Don't do it. So there is a real kind of sense of protection of, no, we don't want crime here and we won't tolerate it in a town like Nerja. Yeah, you get your petty little bits. And I know certain houses in the countryside get burgled because, and they're usually holiday homes because people watching them, the burglar watching them knows that, well, that owner is Swiss. They've gone home for the next month. I can break into here anytime I want and no one's going to come knocking. But of course, if you've got a beautiful home that you want to protect, you have 24-hour security. And you can have your cameras and your alarms and things like that, and your little man that will turn up in his car with the little orange light on the top just to check it every day. So there's always defences to the crime, of which, again, there isn't a lot.
So let's say you lived in Nerja and you went to a restaurant at late hour because Spain just starts eating maybe at 10 p.m.
Absolutely, yeah.
When I'm like in my third dream by then.
I know, yeah.
But let's say You finish dinner, it's midnight, you want to walk home. If you were living in Nerja, um, would you feel safe walking
Definitely.
home?
Without a shadow of
That's
doubt. No other answer to that. I
even
can't think of
women I've heard feel
absolute.
safe.
Yes, yes. It's yeah, totally. I can't think of an area or a place where I would question that. No, absolutely not. It's completely at ease.
So
I
comforting.
Oh, totally. It's funny. I last year I had to go over and sign some papers to do with the house build, and my flight time. It was August, and my flight time was at silly o'clock in the morning, and I'd parked my car in the town centre and had to walk through the town centre to get to the car at about 3 a.m. Actually, so it was the dead of
Mm.
night with my luggage and my passport and wallet in my pockets and things like that. And I can remember seeing people and, you know,
Walking in the street.
walking about. Not. I can remember seeing police cars driving about, the local police or the civil guard. I didn't even think about crime. It didn't. It didn't occur to me what I was doing. And so no, yeah, absolutely safe, totally
Very
safe.
comforting.
Yeah, very, very
That's
much
a
so.
very comforting feeling that you're safe and
Yeah,
not even have to think about
completely.
anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about perception versus reality. Many
Absolutely.
people picture Nerja as a touristy beach town. What do people often get wrong about life there?
From the point of view of an English person, what Nerha isn't is Brits abroad. We have at times in areas of Europe, British people have a terrible reputation of wanting everything cheap, everything basic, being loud and brash to get it. We drink too much, we party too hard. You will not find that in Nerja. It is and remains a quintessential, straightforward, well groomed, and well cared for Spanish town. So when people think of the Costa del Sol, that's what I'm getting to, is when people think of the Costa del Sol in Spain, they think of those urbanized party capitals and those, lots of sunbeds by big swimming pools at great big complex hotels. No, it's not like that. No, 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 no. It's simple, sedate, twee, easygoing. Take me as you find me. And it's very, very beautiful. And it's also not a beach town. It's on the beach, it's on the coast, but there's so much
But
more
it's
hidden
not touristy.
behind those bright lights of the balcony. There's a lot more. There's winding paths and sweet little alleyways with little boutique shops in. Just go beyond those bright lights and that central balcony area, and you'll find all sorts. Like I said, the flamenco bar we stumbled upon last time in March, which was packed in March given the demand. So, we had to book when we saw it. So, yeah, that's what people get wrong. It's not Brits abroad. And I think that's steered off from also the other European influences, the Germans, the Swedish and the Scandinavians. What else do people get wrong? I don't know. That's about it, really. It's
What would you say to someone who's unsure about retiring in Spain or hesitant about moving abroad? What would you say to them?
go and have a look, but also try and live it rather than be a holiday maker. And by that, I mean rent an apartment of the sort that you might like to live in, rent the villa of the sort that you might like to retire to, and live it. Hire yourself a car and drive around and think, well, is this, if I lived here, would I put up with this house that's up in the mountains? How, perish the thought, how would an ambulance get to me? Where do I go for my next grocery shop? If I went rent this apartment, how many flights of stairs have I got to go up? If I live in the town centre, where do I park my car? Will it cost me a fortune? Just live it like, even for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, live it like you would be living in it. And sample it at different times of the year because, yeah, it's got a beautiful climate. It really, really has. And that's what's drawn me and us and the health benefits of that beautiful climate and sunlight. But of course, heat isn't for everyone. You know, and certainly I know, I can think of my mother-in-law who's in her 80s. She would hate to be in a 35-degree heat. She just can't deal with it. However, we've taken her out for Christmas and taken her to Spain for New Year, and she's loved it because she can walk around in a jacket. It's not freezing cold. And she's, you know, she loves the cafe culture. She sit there and have a coffee and watch the world go by. So what I would say to, if you are thinking of sampling that area, just go for it and live it. Don't pretend to be a tourist. And also, one other thing is, for heaven's sake, try and learn some of the language.
Ah, yes. we didn't touch on that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Because
so you are fluent in Spanish.
I am, see? And don't get me wrong, the locals in Nerja and the venues and the restaurants and shops, they all speak a degree of English. And because they've developed with English tourism and English tourists for 50 years, for heaven's sake. So they're familiar with it. However, I noticed when I started learning Spanish and speaking to Spanish people in Spanish in Spain, I mean, I'm a great believer in don't ever go to someone's country and try and teach them your language. Learn theirs first, for heaven's sake.
Yes.
At least a bit. Show them some accord and respect.
Yes.
I noticed I was treated completely differently. And this played out actually in March. Again, we were sat on the balcony, weirdly, having a cup of coffee. And I spoke to the waitress in Spanish and her face lit up. And I ordered all the food and all the drinks in Spanish, and she was speaking back. And then I saw her. We watched her speak to a British couple behind me on the table next door, and actually they were really quite blunt. Almost, again, we have this fantastic, terrible ability to, if we don't understand the language, we shout English at them a bit louder. Yeah, I want a beer, please. Can't you understand me? And this happened. And I just watched this waitress look at this couple as if to say, for heaven's sake, what on earth do you think you're doing? You know, I'm not daft, you know, and
it's just disrespectful.
It's not, it's just, ill-considered. And so if you're going to dance in someone else's dance floor, learn their music.
Love that.
And you know, and that, even just a bit, and the laugh of it is, I get things wrong. You know, I've gone around thinking I'm saying the words, hello, I'm Richard, I speak a little Spanish, when actually I'm walking around saying, hello, I'm Richard, I'm a little Spaniard. So, you know, and these people are staring at me thinking, oh my God, you quite clearly are mad. But they try with you and they help you out as well, and they'll work with you if you try. And they you know, and they find it is flattering to them.
And then they want to learn English too.
Oh God, yeah. And that's the hilarity. Again, the bizarre thing is, you know, I've been having conversations. We're building a house, as we know, as we've discussed, and I'm having a conversation with the architect, and I'm trying to speak to him in Spanish, developing my Spanish. And he said, I want to speak English. So we end up having an argument. It's like, no, I'm in Spain. I'm going to speak Spanish. Like, no, my client's English. I'm going to speak English. So it all just goes horribly wrong, really. But yes, that is what I would say as well, is at least try. Even if you get it wrong, they won't laugh at you.
And it opens up a whole different life and vision on the country that you're in.
Oh, so. Heavens, yeah. And it opens up more doors as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You'll find if you telephone and book a table in Spanish, you'll probably get a better table in the restaurant than you will if you do it in English.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Great. So for wrapping up, Richard, finally, what do you personally love about building your future in Nerja and Salobreña?
Oh, the vision. We've never been people that kind of live life like it's over there and there's something that we're constantly chasing. But this is a destination. And I suppose we've taken a route. We couldn't find the house we wanted, which is why we've chosen to buy a building plot and build it. Because I've built my own home in the UK. And I just thought, you know what? If I've done it in England, I can do it in Spain. How difficult could it be? And it's just that knowing and feeling, like all the things we've discussed, that destination is safe, warm, welcoming, friendly. I've worked my way through the currency and I've got a bank account and all of those things that, those boring domestic things, like finding yourself a solicitor and a lawyer and all of those things. But it's all doable and actually strangely easy, even though there's a language difference. And so it's, to me, it's the vision and the destination and that knowing that I've got that place to hide. And actually the house is called Escondite, which in Spanish is hideaway, because it's our little home and our hideaway. And that is what I'm so looking forward to. And, and I can't help but recommend it. Just go and look and decide for yourself. There's plenty on offer there. And it's a wonderfully welcoming country. Really is.
Great advice. Well, thank you so much, Richard.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining the podcast. Yeah, it's been great. We learned a lot about Nerja and Salobreña.
Salobreña. The N has got a bounce.
I forgot the accent.
Yeah, the N has got a bounce in it. It's Salobreña.
Yeah, accent. Yeah. Salobreña. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and we'll talk soon.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Where Do Gays Retire podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and consider making a donation by clicking the coffee cup on any page at www.wheredogaysretire.com. Each cup of coffee that you buy costs $5 and goes towards helping us continue the podcast. Thank you for your continued support.